Next, I'm going to add my background information. Same thing I just showed you. Now, one thing, just for demonstrative purposes, I've went ahead and I've written all of my background information. So this is a summary of the novel's beginning, middle, and end, and a one-sentence introduction to each character that I'm going to talk about in my essay. Now, you might notice that my character B and my character C aren't actually real characters from the book, but it still gives you a sense of what I'm looking for from you. So all you'd have to do is replace Miranda and Richmond Everby with whatever character B and character C you wanted to talk about in the book. So that's how you do the background information. Next, you have transition 2. The first transition that you already wrote a while back, the whole purpose of that was to move from grabbing my attention to talking about the book and summarizing the book. The second transition, the one that you're about to write right now, moves from talking about, what happens in the book to talking about your opinion about the book. That's a kind of an important difference. An essay is not just a summary of what happens in the book, it's your discussion of your opinion. So how do you move smoothly from talking about what happened in the book to what you think of the book? Your second transition sentence. Go ahead and write down this useful strategy. It might seem as though blank, but actually blank. It's certainly not the only way that you can transition from summarizing to having an opinion about a book, but it is one option there. It might seem as though blank, but actually blank. Here's an example. In a book full of gang members, it might seem as though it would be hard to find a hero, but actually they are everywhere. So now we're not just talking about what happens in the book, but we're talking about my opinion that heroes are everywhere in the book. You're allowed to copy that sentence verbatim if you want. And finally, that brings us to the fifth and most important part of the introduction. The thesis is something that identifies exactly what you must prove to, quote unquote, win the essay. In the example of how a thesis paper is like a court trial, this is like the statement, my client is innocent or his client is guilty. If you don't say that one important sentence, then it kind of ruins the entire rest of the trial. You have to make the jury and the judge aware of exactly what you're trying to prove. My client is innocent. And so it's important that the thesis always be the last sentence of the introduction, and that it always, in one sentence, answers the essay question directly. In this paper, I kind of gave you your thesis, but that won't always be the case. In your midterm, on your next paper, on your final exam, you will have to kind of come up with a thesis on your own. So when I ask you an essay question, to write a thesis, all you have to do is answer the essay question in one complete sentence. So in this case, your essay question was, in a book full of gang members and thugs, do any of the characters wind up being heroes? That's the essay question. Your answer to that essay question in one sentence is something like, by the end of the book, Ponyboy, character B, and character C prove that they have everything it takes to be heroes. Are there any heroes in the book? Yes. This character, this character, and this character. A thesis is sufficient as long as it directly answers the essay question. But an even better thesis kind of gives an indication of what you're going to talk about in each body paragraph. Here's my first body paragraph, here's my second body paragraph, and here's my third body paragraph. So I both have answered the question directly, and I've also kind of given a preview of what I'm going to talk about and in what order. Let's add these last two steps to my introduction here. So here's my transition 2. In a book full of gang members, it might seem as though it would be hard to find a hero, but actually they're everywhere. And then my thesis. By the end of the book, Ponyboy, Miranda, and Richmond prove that they have everything it takes to be truly heroic. This is a pretty good length for an introduction right here. You could write one that's slightly shorter and probably still do it right. You could write one that's a little bit longer, and that's fantastic. As a rule, I think if your introduction goes over 1 page, you're going into a little bit too much detail, um, because it does show effort that you're writing, thoroughly, and that's good. But remember, the whole purpose of the essay is to get down to your argument, and if your introduction starts going longer than a page, you're really delaying getting to your real argument. So just kind of grab my attention, identify the book that we're talking about. Don't assume that I've read the book before. In this case, I've read the book many, many, many times. But the people reading your papers won't always be your teacher. They might be your classmates. And in college, you might do some really important, scientific papers where the people who are reading your paper have no, pre-existing knowledge about your topic at all. So your introduction needs to kind of explain everything that they need to understand about the rest of your paper. So it's important that you do a good job with this summary and introduce us to the characters. Give us your second transition, and most importantly, give us your thesis. All right. Your introduction should be written wherever you wrote your first body paragraph, right above your first body paragraph. And so if I were to zoom out right here, this is my paper so far. I have my outline up top. I have my introduction right here. And I have my first body paragraph right there. All right. Okay, good luck. And I will be around if you have any questions at all. Please let me know.